Future Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, towards the end of the year here, I'm going to be doing my top 5 two-player games. This is a slew of videos of all my best games of different categories from the end of the year. If you haven't seen some of those, go back, subscribe to the channel, check those out. But today, best 5 two-player games of the year.
Number 5.
Okay, this first one is sort of a follow-up game. It is called Boop. Essentially Boop, but with extra O's. This is a two-player abstract game from Smirk and Dagger Games, or even Smirk and Laughter. They're sort of like, sister brands there at the same company. Now this is a two-player abstract game where you're trying to get 3 cats in a row, and there's this cushy little cool little bed. It actually feels like a quilt. And you put it on the box, and you're placing kittens. And when you place a kitten, they boop all the other kittens that are next to it away from it, because it just bounces and everything else bounces away from it. And you're trying to get 3 of your kittens in a row, because when you do, those graduate into a cat, which is a larger cat there. Now the little kittens can't boop the cats, but the cats can boop other cats and other kittens. And if you get 3 cats in a row, you win. So you're trying to move your kittens, upgrade to cats, and then you're trying to get 3 cats in a row. It is a pure, no-luck, abstract strategy game. It takes 10 to 15 minutes, but it's one of those ones that you're going to play 4 or 5 times in a row because it's just so fun. Now this is a version, last year came out with Boop. This year, it was a sort of a Halloween-themed one, but there is a mechanism difference where you can actually play with the ghost cat that actually pushes cats through other cats. So it adds another layer of depth. You don't have to play with that extra rule. You could just play it without that and play basic Boop, but you can add that to add another wrinkle and another layer of strategy to the game. So because it came out this year, it is sort of a follow-up to Boop, pretty close to it with one little mechanism change, but definitely different theme and different look. If you like little quick two-player abstract games that are easy to teach, fun to play, but you want to play multiple times, Boop is it.
Number 4.
This next one is a deck building game, and quite honestly, for this to be on this list is pretty big because I'm not a huge deck building player. However, this is Star Wars, the deck building game. I like Star Wars. I'm not like crazy about it. I remember waiting in line for Return of the Jedi back in, I think, what was it, 84-ish? I remember waiting in line with my dad and my brothers to go see it. Like, I've seen all the movies. I enjoy them, but I'm not like a Star Wars absolute nut. So I like the theme. This deck building game is interesting because it's very asymmetrical, whether which side you're playing on. There's like a row of cards that you can destroy things from that row to make sure your opponent can't get them. But the cool thing is you're trying to do damage to the other player, but when you do, they're going to be able to select a card to come out to give them a powerful ability. In the beginner game, you just get some random ones dealt, and then you choose one. In the strategy game, you get to play. You get to pick from a bunch of them. And so I like this because it had deck builder elements, and it definitely is a deck building game, but it's more about how are you reacting to what's coming out, and then getting those things and then making things happen. But I also like that there's force, which is sort of like a little bit of tug of war. Certain cards key off of those. If you like deck building games, I think this is one to check out. Again, I'm not huge on deck building games, but I did really like this one, and I'm sure they're going to be coming out with more expansions. So I enjoy this one quite a bit, Star Wars, the deck building game.
Number 3.
This next one is a small little game from Pandasaurus Games called District Noir. This is one of those games, it's fast and quick. I mean, it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, it's over. But again, this is one of those games where you'll play it, and you'll probably play, and I recommend playing 2 out of 3. Because it can be a little swingy sometimes. But what you're trying to do, it's very interesting. It's one of those games where it's like a head game, where it's like, I think you're going to do this, and I think you have this, so you would do this. But I think you're going to do that, so you'll do something else. And you get into each other's heads. There's a lot of meta that goes on from game to game. But it's a very interesting mechanism because there's cards, and you're either playing a card down to a tableau, or you're picking up cards, like the last handful of cards. But once you pick up, you're done for the round. So you're trying to weigh out with your opponent, like, should I throw something really good that seems really good at the time to make them take all the cards for this round because they can't take again. I might get multiple turns in a row and I can get the cards, the better cards that I was holding in my hand, trying to get them to bite the bait to pull early and get their, take their cards early so I can get the better cards that I was holding back. Or do you seed it with a bunch of negative scoring cards, right? And so they're trying to stay away from something. There's a lot of, it's very simple game. Is like, it's all about the timing of when you play cards and when you take cards. But you're trying to essentially get sets of, the majorities of certain numbers and they're worth those many points. And you can see what they have. But there's also one other twist is there's a special card in the game where, it can end the game, immediately. So it's got like an immediate end condition, which is always fun to trigger, where if you get I think it's like 3 cities. But this is one of those quick mano-a-mano sort of head games that is really fun. It's all about the timing and getting in each other's heads. A nice quick card game, District Noir.
Number 2.
This next one is another 2-player abstract no-luck game where you've got 3 different win conditions. You're trying to either connect a certain amount of galaxies with your pieces, or you're trying to get from one end of the board to the other end of the board, or you're trying to force your opponent to connect 3 black holes with each other. There's a randomized setup. You're simply just taking a tile and laying it on the board, for your turn. But you're trying to set up connections for yours, but almost all of your pieces have sort of 2 of your color and 1 of the opponent's. So as you're placing it, you're not only trying to set yourself up, but you're also possibly setting up your opponents. You have to be very careful of where you place these and how you set yourself up. There's a lot of future planning. You can basically change the way the game is set up every time, so every game it feels differently as to what you're doing, so you don't get into a rut. Man, if you like quick abstract games, again, this game's like 15 minutes long, but you will play it multiple times in a row. That's a theme here in these quick 2-player games that I've liked for this year. This has a ton of depth and a ton of replayability, and abstract games don't get a lot of sort of publicity in our game. Hey, it's not got huge miniatures, it's not a big $200 Kickstarter, it's not going to get a lot of attention. This game needs a lot of attention. Orion, The Duel, it's a great 2-player no-luck abstract game.
Number 1.
Now, Sky Team, this is interesting because it's a 2-player cooperative game. And one's the pilot, one's the co-pilot, and you're trying to land the plane together. There's some limited communication where you're talking about what you need to do that round, you're rolling some dice behind your shield, and then you're placing them one at a time. I'll place a die, you'll place a die. I'll place a die, you'll place a die. You're trying to clear the airplanes from, the airwaves, trying to clear out the path for yourself. You're trying to make sure that your plane is even, not too overkill. You're trying to control your speed. You're trying to use your flaps. You're trying to get the brakes set up for when the landing gear comes down. It's multiple rounds, and you have certain things you have to do each round, but there's other things that you're trying to time out at the right time to do it. The basic game that you play in the rules is very easy. You'll probably win it even your first time, but there's a book of 20 plus scenarios with all these different little mini modules with different components, different rules. They really ratchet up the complexity, the difficulty, and makes it so as you get better, it gets harder. And I like that, but I like cooperative games. I like 2-player games. This one's very unique where you can even play the other side and it's slightly different because there's some spots that only the co-pilot can go to or only the pilot can go to. And you're trying to feel your opponent out. You're trying to give them information without talking by putting a die down and be like, this is all I got for this. Or I'm leaving this up to you type of thing. A lot of unspoken communication, but you do get to communicate at the beginning of the game. So this game I really love because, again, the limited communication works really well and it's easy to get into, but they really ratchet up the coolness and the difficulty of it as it goes on as you play through all the different scenarios. So one of those games you're always going to get better if you play with the same player, and that's a lot of fun. That is Sky Team. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Best 2 Players Game of the Year. Hopefully I've put some on your radar that you haven't heard of, or given you more information about some that you did not, that you already knew a little bit about. Now, if you want to see more of these coming up, they're going to be coming up all through the end of the year. If you haven't yet, subscribe there down below. Click the notification to be notified. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table into a high-quality gaming solution, but they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with over 20 styles of thematic game mats in 11 different sizes from notable board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and real cool accessories, experience what thousands of other gamers enjoy by upgrading every game you play with a Game Topper system. Save hundreds of dollars on Game Topper package deals that are in stock now for immediate shipping at GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.